Yeah, I mean, just in what you've already shared with us, it's pretty obvious that storytelling is at the heart of everything that you do. I'm curious now, it seems like the story comes first and then you use the technology to help you tease out the story that you want to tell. How does that process work?
Yeah, so this is a process I work really closely with and with my students at the University of Maryland. And as you kind of were saying, I'm really starting with what's the use case? Like, why are we making this piece? I'm really interested in what the utility, if we're going to use a piece of technology, why is it really necessary to create an engaging, compelling, meaningful experience for an audience? So where I often start with my collaborators is to really articulate what we're exploring as a question. So you've kind of seen that with these pieces that I've given as examples. We're trying to sort of identify what's this question that we're trying to explore, because at the end of the day, we get to explore that with our audience. The question adds a direction, almost like momentum towards the piece, rather than sort of making a statement that the piece is around. By asking as a question, it leaves it open-ended. It leaves it for multiple interpretations. So that's a lot of times where we start, is with a question of inquiry. And then we build what that experience is around that core question. And especially when we're working with a very multidisciplinary team, we're working with new technologies, we're not quite sure exactly how it's going to work or how an audience is going to experience it. You can also often get lost in the details. And so you keep coming back to that core question to see if what you're proposing, no matter how cool it is, from a technology perspective, does it serve that central thing that you're after?
It's such a powerful form of exploration. I love the way that you approach storytelling, and it's obvious that you have a deep passion for storytelling. How did you develop your passion for storytelling?
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate to grow up with a family of storytellers. My grandfather is from a small town in Missouri, Ava, Missouri, and I was always hearing stories from his hometown. And there's these sort of really sometimes silly or poignant stories about different characters from his hometown. These sometimes are stories that have been passed down for 100 or 150 years or so. And so, that might be part of why I gravitate inherently towards story. I think in particular, I became really interested in visual storytelling through some early experiences I had with my dad. My dad's an architect, and he would take me to job sites when I was really, really young. And I was absolutely fascinated to watch the process of an environment take shape, to watch a house go up, a building go up, and to see what went into it, and to learn from him how he looked at space, and to look at how we interact with space and how space can tell a story through architecture and through design. And that got me just really, really interested in looking at those kinds of questions. And in some respects, theater is all about that, is about looking at human beings interacting with each other in space.
So that ties in with my next question. In theater, you practice your craft. In the classroom, you teach your craft. And obviously, part of your skill set is storytelling. So let's talk about the stories behind Jonathan, the practitioner. Let's dig a little deeper there. I'm fascinated by you as a practitioner because as much originality goes into your work. So I know that there's another excellent story here. Could you kind of elaborate a little bit more on your creative process? You told us how storytelling has become a powerful part of your life. How do you pick the stories that you now decide to tell?
I think often the stories that I look for are around topics that I don't have easy answers to. Online extremism again is a great example. It's something where it's easy to, I guess, condemn others' behavior when we don't feel like we share it or we understand it, and to write it off as something that maybe doesn't have to do with us, or we would never exhibit those kinds of behaviors. And I was curious about that. It's like, yes, is that true, or is it more complicated than that? So I think, I'm often I will say that I'm often looking for topics like that, where there's some gray area to be explored. I imagine that my audience often comes in with preconceived notions about the subject matter that we're going to explore in the piece, and I want them to leave with more questions than answers.
So, I mean, in addition to immersive, you could almost say interactive or exploratory. There's so much packed into this discipline that you're in. Do you see theater as your laboratory, like a laboratory for scientific experimentation to test what works and what doesn't work? To answer these tough questions that you're looking at with your storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, creating works of theater or other disciplines, and actually, especially when we're starting to work with immersive technology, it's definitely a laboratory. And that's a lot of how I think about it, how I approach it. It's a lot about testing out proposals, testing out ideas, seeing if they work. And part of that testing is a question, especially with immersive technology, of can we do something? Can we make something work? Can we figure out a system that uses motion sensors to follow collective action and then relay that into a result that an audience sees on an immersive screen, for example? But oftentimes, it's also a question, again, of should we create something? And what is the value of something that we can create with new technologies? And I love that experimental process, and to be surprised by it and see where it goes, to start off in a direction and then find that both as creators and hopefully then as the audience, we end up someplace we didn't expect and can draw connections with the world in ways that we're surprised by. For me, especially working with something like augmented reality, I think the possibilities there for creating experiences that help us to see the physical world in new ways, in ways that are really unique and surprising and create delight and magic, is some of the possibilities that I'm so excited to explore as a practitioner and also as an educator, and to see what my students do with that technology and what kind of stories they're interested in telling.
I'm just blown away, Jonathan. I mean, it's just really amazing.